There are no protests, no catchy slogans, and no media campaigns. People are simply disappearing, quietly, subtly, day after day. Little by little, Canadians are no longer driving across the border to spend their winters in Florida. Japanese professionals are canceling business trips to Silicon Valley. French tourists who once crowded New York in the summer now opt for vacations in Greece or Canada instead. Then, one morning, a 63-year-old innkeeper in Jersey Shore placed a "for sale" sign in front of his property. It wasn't because of a natural disaster or rising taxes. The real reason was far more personal. His regular guests had stopped returning. But this is not just a sorrowful story from the beachside. According to the first quarter 2025 travel report, the United States has lost over $4.2 billion in tourism revenue from its allied nations, within just a few months. This isn't limited to one state. The entire system is experiencing a profound disruption. In this video, you'll discover 10 countries that are quietly withdrawing from the US, and the American states feeling the effects first. Even if you believe your state has been untouched, watch until the end. What's unfolding may soon render America unrecognizable from the one you once cherished. Something strange is clearly happening. Canada, America's closest neighbor and a frequent visitor, is quietly stepping back. There are no official announcements, no protests. But from Toronto to Vancouver, an online movement called "Skip the States" is gaining momentum. Published by Canadian creators, the campaign reflects a growing sentiment. More and more Canadians are canceling their US vacation plans. According to data from the US Travel Association, Canadian visits to the United States declined by 35% in the first quarter of 2025 alone. States heavily reliant on tourism, such as Florida, Michigan, and New York, are bearing the brunt, with combined losses exceeding $700 million. These losses have impacted every corner of the tourism industry: hotels, transportation, car rentals, and retail. At a once thriving inn in Hollywood, Florida, affectionately called Little Quebec, for its popularity among Canadian visitors, the quiet is unsettling. The bilingual signage remains, written in both English and French. But the guests have disappeared. Innkeeper Richard Clevet expressed his heartbreak. "At one point, I thought we should rename our reservation office to the cancellation office. It's not just the financial hit, it's the emotional toll." The once close ties between the two countries are fraying. The warm winter reunions and familiar faces in the local cafes have faded into silence. The spiral has begun, particularly for older Americans who rely on tourism to supplement their income. When inns sit empty, their owners lose vital revenue. Some are forced to rely on credit cards just to meet daily expenses. Anxiety is rising. In response, a few solutions are being explored. Some property owners are turning to long-term rentals through platforms like Zillow. Others are seeking help from apps financial services to restructure their debts or receive guidance on retirement and insurance planning. Alternative platforms are gaining attention as well, such as Turo for peer-to-peer car rentals and Get Set Up, a service aimed at helping adults over 55 adapt to new lifestyles and income streams. Still, the question lingers. How did Canadians, once affectionately dubbed the 51st state, come to feel out of place in America? Have you ever lived in a town that regularly welcomed Canadian visitors? What changes have you noticed around you? Share your thoughts in the comments. You're not alone in feeling this unease. And if you believe that only Canada has turned away from American tourism, the next country may surprise you even more, a country that used to send millions of students to the US, but now has quietly withdrawn. Japan's retreat is quiet and calculated. There are no slogans, no organized boycotts. They simply cancel their trips without fanfare, changing direction without drawing attention. And America didn't fully grasp what was happening, until the empty airport seats became impossible to ignore. Data from the Japan National Tourism Organization and ANA Airlines show a steep drop in Japanese travel to the United States during the first quarter of 2025. Business trips have declined. Student exchange programs are being canceled. Flights to major hubs like LAX and San Francisco are being called off in increasing numbers. Major Japanese news outlets like NHK have begun covering these concerning developments. A 58-year-old engineer from a Tokyo-based technology firm recounted how he was delayed for 6 hours at JFK Airport during a secondary screening. No explanation, no apology. Frustrated, he cancelled all his U.S. business plans, and his company redirected its research and development efforts to Berlin. For states like California, Washington, and New York, this isn't just a few travelers changing their minds. It's the loss of an entire demographic of educated, respectful, high-spending visitors. People who once loved the United States with quiet admiration. Now, a silent shift is underway. As these dependable guests stop returning, the revenue begins to dry up. Staff hours are being cut. Contracts are left unrenewed. The 60-year-old airport driver who once welcomed guests with a smile, the hotel receptionist who remembered every name, and the Airbnb host by the lake. They all feel the change creeping in. It's more than financial loss. It's the disappearance of a comforting rhythm of life. Places once alive with Japanese voices now feel strangely hollow. Yet hope flickers in unexpected places. A driver in Seattle who frequently transported Japanese tourists decided to enroll in ARP's Back to Work 50+ job training program. He said, "I can't wait for customers to return, but I can work on changing myself." When even Japan, a country known for its politeness and discretion, becomes cautious about visiting the United States, it signals a deeper shift in how America is perceived from the outside. Have you ever worked with Japanese clients? Have you noticed their absence recently? Your personal experiences might reflect a broader trend unfolding across the country. Let's now move on to the next country, one that once saw America as a kindred spirit but now chooses only to hold on to memories, turning away in silence. For the Danes, America used to symbolize openness, progress, and endless opportunity. But everything began to change after revelations surfaced that the US had allegedly spied on political activities in Greenland, a region deeply tied to Danish identity. There was no outcry, no retaliation, just a growing quiet. According to the Nordic Tourism Bureau, Danish tourist visits to the US dropped by 34% in March alone. Even consumer loyalty is shifting. Major American brands like Coca-Cola and Levi's have reported declining sales in Denmark. A group of 25-year-old students from Aarhus, originally bound for a spring exchange program in New York, changed course and went to Canada instead. One of them shared on a Copenhagen podcast, "We're not against America. But right now, Canada feels safer, more in line with the values we were raised with." States like California, Illinois, and Massachusetts, once popular with polite, curious Nordic tourists, are losing more than just revenue. They're losing a community of travelers eager to learn, connect, and leave a positive impact. The shift hasn't been loud, but it has been unmistakable. Tours disappeared from booking calendars. Tables that once buzzed with conversation now collect dust. Wait staff were the first to see their shifts reduced, first on weekends, then even on weekdays. This isn't just about losing jobs. It's about losing daily purpose, a place where people once felt useful and valued. A 59-year-old chef in Chicago, who once prepared meals for a regular group of Danish tourists each month, has switched to driving for delivery services. Fortunately, he receives support from ARP's Senior Community Service Employment Program, which helps older adults gain new skills and supplemental. Reflecting on the change, he said, "I didn't expect to start over at this age. But maybe it's time to try something new. Are we sacrificing our global image and international trust for short-term stances?" Have you interacted with Danish tourists in your community? Have they recently disappeared? Your insights may help others see what's happening all around them. And if you believe this is just another political dispute, the next country will surprise you even more, because they didn't step away due to disagreement. They left because they no longer feel safe setting foot on American soil. Welcome to the story of Australia. Australians have long woven visits to the US into their summer routines. Flights from Sydney to Los Angeles, children experiencing Disneyland for the first time, elderly couples sitting hand in hand at Santa Monica Beach, savoring their American dream. For decades, this was the easiest and most natural international relationship on Earth: shared culture, open borders, integrated economies, and a people-to-people connection that felt familial. But in 2025, something has shifted. According to a report from Destination Canada, American tourist traffic into key Canadian cities has remained steady, but what's startling is the sharp increase in Canadian citizens actively avoiding travel to the US, down by nearly 22% compared to the same period last year. For many Canadians, it's no longer about where they want to visit, it's about where they feel respected, safe, and heard. From Vancouver to Montreal, travel agencies are reporting a dramatic uptick in bookings to Europe, Japan, and Latin America instead of the United States. A sentiment echoed in online forums, social media groups, and personal conversations. That something about the modern American landscape, be it political tensions, gun violence, or cultural polarization, feels unfamiliar and uninviting. One 45-year-old mother in Ottawa shared her story. "I used to take my kids to Disneyland every summer. But after seeing the news, hearing the stories, and feeling the change, I booked us for Spain this year. Not because it's cheaper, but because I can breathe." The emotional impact of this isn't just numbers. In cities like Buffalo, Detroit, and Seattle, places that once thrived on cross-border Canadian tourism, the economic reverberations are real. Shopping districts once flooded with day trippers from Toronto or Vancouver are now quiet. Restaurants that relied on Canadian holiday traffic are scaling back hours. Even snowbird communities in Florida are seeing lower bookings from retired Canadians who are choosing places like Portugal and Costa Rica instead. A retired Canadian couple who once wintered in Sarasota now lives part-time in Madeira, Portugal. "We always felt like we were just crossing into another part of our extended family when we visited the US," the husband said. "But now, it feels like we're walking into someone else's argument. One that we were never invited into, but can't avoid anymore." Tourism boards in American border states are scrambling to adapt. Some are launching targeted campaigns to restore confidence. But when a 38-year-old Toronto-based travel blogger with over 500,000 followers titled her recent viral post, "Why I'm No Longer Crossing South," it wasn't just a travel opinion, it was a cultural wake-up call. For a generation that grew up with Friends, The Simpsons, and cross-border shopping trips to Target, this shift feels like a loss of identity. And the truth is, it's not just about Canada, France, Sweden, or South Korea. It's about the collective ripple effect, when visitors, students, families, and dreamers quietly change course. When a mother chooses Tokyo over Orlando. When a student picks Amsterdam instead of Boston. When a retiree cancels Arizona for Andalusia. It's not an economic collapse. It's a trust collapse. One that whispers louder than protests and reshapes a nation more deeply than policies. So we ask again, what changed? What made America feel less like a dream and more like a detour? This isn't a video about blame. It's a mirror. One held up not just to America's face, but to its heart. If these stories struck a chord with you, if you've witnessed this shift or felt it yourself, please share your experience in the comments. Because sometimes, the stories we don't tell are the ones that matter most. And if you think this is the end of the story, it's only just beginning.